Hi, it's Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review. Going to talk about the Blu-ray edition of the documentary Triumph, Rock and Roll Machine. This is available on multiple streaming services. I waited till I got a Blu-ray copy of it, and wow, what a bare bones Blu-ray it is, but it was cheap. Triumph Rock and Roll Machine is a 2021 documentary telling the behind-the-scenes story of Triumph's rise to fame in the 70s and 80s, and their abrupt disappearance from the spotlight right when they were getting the biggest. I had heard and read some things about this documentary that Rick Emmett wasn't the biggest fan because it was basically Gil's side of things. Drummer Gil Moore owns the rights to the band and everything else, and they got everybody back together for a fan thing, and that's pretty much what the documentary is about. They use that as the catalyst to get into the band's history, that they're going to have this big fan thing, and they're going to play, but the fans don't know that. And it's a great capper to the movie. The same people that worked on this worked at Bangor Films, which also did Rush Beyond the Lighted Stage, which is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen about a rock band. It really got into the warts and all. They had home footage of Rush at the dinner table in high school, telling their family they were going to leave and go do music. There's none of that kind of revelatory stuff in the Triumph documentary. If you're not a huge Triumph fan, you're going to learn a lot of things. If you're a massive Triumph fan, you're not going to learn a whole lot. They gloss over some of the naughtier things, especially towards the end when they added a fourth member when they toured and stuff like that. They do talk about it. Rick Emmett would free him up to play guitars and do more of the showman stuff that, well, their music was getting more complicated. It was hard. They're a three-man band, much like Rush, and although their music isn't as technical, they were adding more and more layers as they were going because that's how bands evolve, and it was getting hard for them to play all the music and be a show. And for someone who saw Triumph at their heyday, I saw not the Allied Forces tour. I had to watch that on video, but everything else. Never Surrender, they played Atlanta. Thunder 7, they played Atlanta. Sport of Kings, they played. I saw all these tours, and Triumph was one of the best live bands ever. The three guys just could throw down. Great bass player, great drummer who could also sing, great guitar player who could also sing. The dude was, another Eddie Van Halen type. The guy could play anything, classical guitar, all sorts of stuff. So I was a huge Triumph fan, pretty much from Just a Game all the way up until Sport of Kings, and then it kind of became something else. But I still love Allied Forces, Never Surrender, Thunder 7. I still listen to those albums. And so I was anxious to see this, to see what would I learn. And it's set up a lot like some of the other rock and roll documentaries. We hear a lot about the band. You meet a few fans. One of them survived cancer. One of them, she's got everything they've ever done and license plates on her car and that kind of stuff. And then we follow these people as they go actually get to meet the band and go to this fan thing. But I will say it's great that Rick Emmett's more in the movie than I thought. This is not, 2 against 1 kind of thing. His stuff's in there. I just think some of the arguments and probably some of the things that broke the band apart are kind of glossed over a little bit and just kind of rushed over to keep things on a positive level. And I really don't have a problem with that, especially on a band that's not going to be around anymore. This was kind of their last hurrah. They're all getting older. They're all doing other things. They kind of got back together for the fans, and that was kind of it. And Rick has had quite the solo career. Gil's been producing people, and Mike's done other things. So the guys are all doing fairly well after post-band. But for fans, a lot of us wonder why certain bands go on and others don't. This gets a little bit into it, that they really just couldn't get past the fame and the tensions within the three-piece band. And that's kind of why things went the way they did. You'll learn that. You're going to see some concert footage. I wish there was a whole lot more concert footage and a lot less with some of the fans. I mean, I know that's probably what some people get into this for, but Triumph really was a visually stunning live band. They put on an incredible show, and there's just a little bit of concert footage spread throughout the documentary. Pieces of stuff, videos we've seen before that, a few concert things that we hadn't, but the US Festival and things like that. But it seems like some of the live stuff is kind of glossed over to get back to the juicy stuff. And I don't know, Triumph is just one of those bands I wanted to see more music from and more live stuff in their documentary. But again, just kind of an hour and a half documentary is going to give you a rough estimate of everything they did over the course of 20 plus, almost 30 years. It's not a bad documentary at all. I don't mean to take anything away from it. It is a pretty poor Blu-ray. Like, the movie's great, but there's no menu even. There's no extras. There's no trailer. There's no behind the scenes. There's no commentary. You put the Blu-ray in, it starts, it plays the movie, and it stops. There's nothing else on the disc. But I got it for like $14 on Amazon during a sale, so it's not bad. And as someone who collects these kind of things, it is a decent documentary. It just doesn't go into the depth that you kind of hoped it would, like the Rush one did. But that being said, if you're a Triumph fan, you need to see it. Do you need to own it? I would probably buy the remastered albums before I'd buy this documentary. Especially, why couldn't they put some concert footage on it? And their career was also plagued with rights issues and having to change record labels and all that stuff. So I know it probably wasn't easy to put this documentary together. But Gil has everything in their Metalworks studio up there in Canada. They take you through the back rooms of all the lights and the signs and the neon and the flash pots and the flamethrowers and everything. They talk about how they got their first special effects and how Gil would practice in the garage blowing things up and things like that. There is some very interesting stuff in this. It's just not going to just open your eyes to maybe something you didn't know about the band. A lot of this is pretty well-worn territory. Like I said, there's no extras on the Blu-ray. It looks fine. It sounds fine for a documentary. I believe the surround sound was in, I think it was in stereo, might have been 5.1. It sounded fine. I didn't have any problems with it. The concert footage was good. I just wish there was more, maybe a second one, or maybe just some more live stuff from Triumph. There's just so little of that band, and they were so visual that you can get the US Festival concert, I think. You can get all the albums remastered, that kind of thing. But it would be nice if more stuff came out of the vaults, if there was some... I know they had some concerts on Canadian satellite that we saw down in the United States. Put some of those out on Blu-ray. That would be nice. But anyway, if you're a fan of Triumph, pick this up. If you're not a fan, I would rent it and check it out and see if you learned something. And maybe it's not a bad documentary. It's not A-list super high recommendation. I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5. It was definitely worth watching, and I'm a fan of the band, so I got a lot out of it. So check out Triumph Rock and Roll Machine, not the album. The 2021 documentary is available now from Banger Films, the same people that made the Rush documentary and many others. You might dig it. Scott, I'm ROCKFILE. More podcasts are on the way. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a spectacular day.